All right, good people, you crazy sons of bitches. All right, what's happening, everybody? Today, you'll notice this is the 50 millimeter. We swapped things over just to keep things interesting. All right, shall we get into this live stream? Many thanks. If you are new to the live stream, the easiest place to get in the chat is over on YouTube. That way I can see it as it all comes in. By now, we are all experts in everything live stream. I'm not in the middle of the frame here. Here we go. Just adjust. What up, everybody? Many thanks for checking it out. What do we got here? What do we got? San Diego. Oh, say hello to the old in-laws. Caesar, or Cesar, whatever you prefer. We got Neil from RI. Seriously? Rhode Island? Yeah, my New York friends. Okay, and then we got some LA peeps as well. Ooh, better not be shitty weather over there. Okay, what else we got? Texas, Ohio. Man, we got people from everywhere. Nobody from Russia, though. Interesting. Okay. Geez, this is the U.S. show. I don't know, Sean. I'm not splitting things up yet. Maybe we could, though. Maybe I could do one just for the U.S. crowd. Okay, Blue Ford Delta. My boy. Always in this thing. I love it. Okay, well, how's everybody doing? I trust well. Today, before we start with we're going to be looking at a project. I might as well show you. I tease you right now. So we're looking at this project. If you sent this project in, it's yours. And you've done well. Well, not as in the project's great, but you've done well to get it on the show. Good for you. So, if I get this cord out of the way, let's go ahead and thumb through some of these images, shall we? If I go like this, whoops, Jesus. So we're going to be looking at this guy playing this piano in this blue sort of environment, and then we're also going to be looking at this little short film, which is like a World War II short film. But only one scene from it. I'll tell you what, though, if you did send in your projects, thank you. I'm gonna have to do something because the projects there's so many now. When you guys send them in, that I want to do more of them. So maybe we'll do another one of these things, or maybe I'll just make this super long and you can come and go at your leisure. Because yeah, there's lots of stuff to talk about in them, and we might as well talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so again, if you've got any questions, definitely put them over on the YouTube chat, and I'll try and get to them before we start. But before we get into that, people have been asking me about using a meter, right? And the way that I use a meter, it's not rocket science, but I work backwards from false color when using a meter. So my whole idea, and if anything is a theme on this live stream, it's that all my ideas get flushed down the toilet. So the idea was, come in here, I do some readings on my faces, I do some readings on the background, that way you get to see exactly how I work. There's only one problem. The battery inside decided to die as I was connecting the live stream. Like, I saw the last of the lights go out. And I don't have another one of these batteries here because it is these shitty little, these little guys. I don't even know what this is called, that type of battery. But I remember every time I go to get it, because I live in Australia, and we have, we just got the internet. It's a pain in the ass finding batteries. So there's no numbers on the screen, but I can still easily walk you through it. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna just tell you how I do it, because it's not, it's definitely not super difficult. It's actually quite easy. Okay, so the only thing that I do, and I imagine, I don't know, I've never asked anybody else how they do it. I've never seen anyone else take meter readings and then figure it out in their head. I've never been on a set where anyone's done that. I just sort of, how am I going to use this tool to make myself better? Especially when I got the thing and I was in that false color zone and I was trying to learn exactly what everyone else was doing. This thing is perfect because it will not lie. You can't cheat with this thing. There's no getting around it. If you like the results and you know the measurements on this thing, you are forever safe, because all you have to do is make the light hit the measurements that you want, make sure that the quality is there, of course, and you're good to go, right? So this thing is peace of mind in your pocket. So what I do, let's take, for example, this scene. right? There is an 8x8 just here, and it's got an Aperture 120D behind it. We are at 25 frames per second, so that shit doesn't flicker. 180 degree shutter, and we are at 800 ISO, okay? So those things are set, and the shooting stop, what are we at? That's a 2.8. We're at a 2.8. So those are our set parameters. All I would come over here and do, the numbers, the only number that actually matters is my key, right? Because we're indoors, I control all of those lights back there, so I don't have to worry about balancing to anything. I don't have to worry about anything I can't control. This is, all I'm doing is, let's set our stop and where we want our skin, right? So I would come over here, and I never have this little thing out. It's always in. You can take it out if you want. I never do, only because I want to measure individual lights. All I do is come over here, I'd read the key side of my face, hit the button. Up comes 2.8. So that's what we've set our lens to. We've set our lens to 2.8. Now, I never use incident again. I only use incident for the key side and to set the stop. Once the stop is set, then switch over this little button here, pop this bad boy off, and now all I'm going to do is with the sound effects on set, I'm just going to spot little areas of the background, okay? And I know that I want my background, say I want my background 2 stops under, okay? If I'm 2.8 here, I want to be 2 under back there. What's it got to read? It doesn't matter what the color is. It doesn't matter if it's gray, if it's black, if it's green. It doesn't matter what it is, because it's always trying to get back to neutral gray. Whatever you point this thing at is trying to make that balance neutral gray. So I just take the spot meter. I look around, spotting. If it comes up as 1.4, I know I'm 2 stops under. If this comes up as 1.4 right there, okay? Then this comes up, it's a little bit darker. Maybe that's a split between 1 and 1.4. Then this comes up and say it's like 2.8 maybe. So all I'm doing is spotting individual elements in the background and comparing it to the key stop. That's it. That's the only way I use it. That way I know. I know exactly, okay, I need that there, I need that there. Maybe I'll do a fill if like, if it's something high key, if it's like a Kmart ad or a, you know, one of those white psych sort of deals. Maybe you buzz that as well, just to check your ratios if it's a lady and she's not on set, or you don't have somebody to stand in for you to look at the light. You just want to say, okay, what are we actually starting with? That's how I'd use it. It's that simple. Incident for key side, and then everything else is spot. And everything, all the spots are relative to the one key measurement, or the one incident measurement. Okay? So you sort of have to have the combo in order to use this process. But I think, I don't know, this is really, is this, even with the new one, is this still sort of the standard? I don't know. I don't know anybody that has a meter that doesn't have this meter, if that makes any sense. Okay. Should we do questions? Let's see. Are there any questions from you fine folk? What was this week on the podcast? It was a breakdown. Oh, the Inside the Bar commercial. Yeah. That was fun. Master Anamorphics is cool. That's all I got. Okay, let's look. Questions. Okay, Andrew Strobage. I have a question about the Patreon Facebook page. I remember you mentioned something about it on an old podcast, but then never heard anything again. Is it a thing? Is anything going on there? I'm pretty sure it's a thing. I don't know. I more made it because people were asking to talk to each other. I'm not a Facebook guy. I'll occasionally pop in there and say hello under my alias, but it is. I think it's still going. Well, I know it's still going. And I know that people still post stuff in there. So that's good. Okay. Okay, that's it. Let's get into this breakdown, shall we? This is a music video. Somebody just put it up in the Patreon group probably 15 minutes ago. So they should be watching this. They should be watching this. If they are, if you are watching this and this is your project, what am I doing? I'm way over here. Come on. Get serious. Let's get serious, folks. If this is your project, say hello and what you're actually doing. But for this first bit, it is a guy, he's playing a piano, he's in a white cyc room, and we went blue, right? That's really the theme here. We went blue. And if I remember from the Patreon post, they had a bit of trouble with shadows on the ground, and I think that was their only really complaint. And we can see that. We can see the old shadows on the ground coming from all different directions. We got one here from this, what looks like a backlight, which is giving that hard shadow. And then we've got this shadow on the ground, which is coming from our big softy top light. And then something is lighting the white cyc in some sort of weird pattern where it's darker over there. Well, should we start with this one? We might as well start with the wide. Can someone post a link to the Facebook group? If you're in the Facebook group, would you be so kind as to post something inside the YouTube chat? Okay, so this is a blue look, and it's a studio gig, and we are not sure what the light situation is, or the crew situation, or how easy this is to set up. But generally, when we're in this situation, we're going to start with the wide, so that we then know the direction of the light once we get into this shot, okay? And very first thing that I notice is at least we got the light on the right side, right? At least we got the light from here. So in that wide shot, at least it's coming from behind him. What does that immediately do? It immediately makes this way better because this is all dark, right? And it's nice levels against the, you know, it's not complete silhouette. It's nice. It's striking. The shadows on the ground are a bit of a pain in the ass, but we'll talk about those. So that's good. You know, from a planning perspective, in that wide, you got the light on the far side of him, which means you can then come in here with good stuff for the close-up. Now, let's not talk about the light just there just yet. And then finally, we've got this shot as well, which you can see has a much stronger backlight. So we've got that going. Let's take a look at the wide. How do you eliminate those shadows, or how would we approach this? If we had, let's just pretend that we had the cash and pretend that we had the crew to make this a thing. I would start, and I think this has been posted, I think I talked about this on the podcast. It would have been the episode where we shot in the big studio. We shot the people dancing in the pool of water. Easiest way, depending on what city you're in and the studio that you're in and then the type of budget that you're working in, is there'll probably be a grid up here, and that grid will probably be populated by space lights. Okay? But let's just say, and the space lights, you know, it would have one here, it'll have one here, one here, one here. It'll have, you know, 6K space lights, which if you don't know what those are, just Google space lights. But basically they're broad area lights that are meant for illuminating either the wall or the whole set and having it be shadowless. Because you don't want super hard shadows, because we don't want to feel where the light is coming from, because we don't want to feel the light. Right? We want the light to just be there a lot of the times, unless you're going for that look. Let's just assume we're going for the normal look. So what you would start with, or what I would ask for during the tech scout process, was, okay, we're definitely going to need an overhead to light him. We're going to need an overhead to light this whole area from the cyc wall back, basically, because we're going to split this into two areas in the studio. We're going to split it from, let's say, this bit forward, which is the corner of the cyc wall, and then we're going to do the cyc wall separately, right? So when we're lighting, we're thinking in those terms. We're thinking in studio versus set wall. And for him, what we would do is we would say, okay, what's going to be our biggest wide shot? How far back are we going to be during the wide? And let's say we land on this frame. Okay, now I know. Now I know this is probably, if his little foot is 1 foot, this is probably 20 feet across. Maybe not even, right? Probably like 18 feet across. So getting there with a 20 by is going to be difficult, but if they do have a grid, right, 20 by on stands, you're going to see the stands. in the shot, right? You'd see him over here, which would be a bummer. Oops. Take that away. 20 by with stands, you'd see the stands over here like this, and it wouldn't look very nice. But let's just say you can hang it from the ceiling. I would, number one, ask when they're hanging it that it be skirted, the whole thing. You probably want a minimum of whatever the drape is on the space light, whatever the I think it's about 3 feet. You probably want 3 feet down from the overhead. So you would have the overhead, and then 3 feet extended on all sides, you would have the ability to skirt. And that would keep things pooly. And you're doing it basically so that you can control how much light is going to the back wall, right? That is key because we're going to create these two separate looks. We're going to have wall and we're going to have this. So up there, the thing that you want to look out for when you do this is a lot of the times it pays to be able to slightly tilt the overhead. Because even though, you know, say you put up a 20 by of full grid, something thick up there where it's going to create this shadowless area, or much less shadow than this. These are quite hard. You want it as soft as possible, but you also want it to have some direction. So if you just put this overhead right in line, just put it like this, and you put it over him, you would get a whole bunch of shit filled in here, which is not what we want. But you still want a little bit of this wrap that's happening on the side of his head, right? You still want that look. So in an ideal world, you'd be able to then tilt. You take the 20 by and you can just tilt it ever so slightly, right? So it just feels a little bit backy. That would be nice. And that's what we're going to try and go for. So you ask for that ability. You say, okay, can we hang it? Is it easy to move? Let's make it so that it's easy to move so that we can adjust it. And then that gives us our little edge. That's what we're starting with on this wide shot. Then for the background, depending on, again, what is at the studio, they probably have shitty old space lights. If you have the option and you have the cash, sky panels are going to be the easiest because then you can do all the color shit. You can make them soft. They have enough output to compete with whatever lamp you're putting over someone. So it's all good, right? So sky panels for the back, overhead, whatever you want to put in it. Again, if you got the cash for sky panels, overhead too as well, everything just becomes easier. If you go space light, then you are stuck and you have to be very sure. I've had this problem. I loaded up this, we were shooting a Target ad, and we put a 20 by 40 up of full grid. And we put 6K space lights in, I think there would have been 10, so 5 and 5 across, because we didn't want the whole thing filled. It didn't have to be necessarily even. We just wanted that amount of room, so 20 by 40 in the actual space that we were in. Well, the problem is we then lit the cyc wall with what was there at the studio, which was 4-bank Kinos, Image 40s. And Image 40s, you can take bulbs out, or you can turn bulbs off, but you can't take them down. You can't lower them. So even though there was tungsten in there, and we had the ability to knock the level back by killing bulbs, we had to dim what was overhead. So that warmed up the light. And then we needed a smooth transition to the wall, and we couldn't get that because we couldn't dim. It would have taken forever to gel. I mean, it was a fucking huge cyc wall. It would have taken forever to gel all the lights. So basically, I mean, it was completely fucked. Like, to get the transition of a smooth white wall, I completely hosed myself. No, I didn't hose myself. I mean, I did ask for sky panels. They don't come. Okay, what are we gonna do? I shouldn't have said okay to the easy solution, which was the Image 40s, because that ended up fucking me. Okay, enough about that. There is this guy here. He's getting lit. That's fine. So the bigger and softer you make this, the less and less shadow you're going to get. Of course, if you bring it closer to the talons, you're also going to get less shadow. You're going to get more of this. So the further down this comes, the overhead, the more angled it needs to be. Because if it's directly overhead, you're going to get spill onto this side. From a shot perspective, I mean, it's nice. You got, I don't know about cutting this thing off. A little bit wider would have been okay. But it's nice. It's all lit up. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be even, but I mean, you can see that there is some transition there, and you can see that it's significantly darker over here, which could be part of the look, but I would say I'd probably match that with this side as well, just so it's nice and even. And then, you know, the question of taste comes in. How silhouette-y do we go? How dark do we want to make this and still make it believable in this shot? John, tilt overhead towards wall or towards talent? No, never towards the wall, right? Because our overhead is just for our talent. Our wall we're doing separately. I mean, you can do the two together. Don't get me wrong. It's just you have a lot less control, and lack of control is worse. Okay, so yeah, so you're tilting it towards the talent. So, like this, talent is here, sitting in his little thing. Camera's over here, looking this way. We want to tilt it this way. So, doesn't, if you go like this, it starts to wrap around him more. You go like this, it wastes more forward. You get more edge, less wrap. Okay. Then in the background, you're just setting your level. However, this is, I mean, from a lighting perspective, it doesn't really get any easier than this shot. It would be more, the question would be, okay, if from a stylistic point of view, if we're going to go full silhouette, this is awesome. But if we're then cutting to something like this, we may want a little bit more level on him or on something in here, right? Because this is looking fairly down. So easy enough in here. The thing with blending in to silhouette stuff is the trick is it has to be such little level, but such massive spread. It has to be like, which is why light mats are so great. Soft, big, sells ambient. Small, hard, sells light. So if you wanted just a little bit of level in here, we don't want any light in here, but you just want more detail, you would have to lay flat, probably a light mat 4, and then you just, probably like a magic cloth on top of whatever diffusion is on the light mat. I forget what it is, like a little quarter. And knock the shit out of it so that it is literally just, I mean, it's just a hair, right? These cameras now are so sensitive. It's just like, you should be able to put your hand over it and you barely see the difference, but it just gives that little bit of texture, and you probably see the thing that props up the piano somewhere around here, wherever that is, you know, just a little bit of something. Because then when we come into this shot, okay, now we've got a reason to have all of this fill, right? Because there's just a little bit more texture than just going straight black. I mean, I like the straight black look. And if you like the straight black look, and this is a fucking music video, and there's no client, you can do whatever you want. I do the same thing. I do the same thing over here. Keep it dark, you know? Don't miss so far forward with this backlight that you've got coming. You're missing all the way down to his chin here. It's also reflecting off of the piano and going this way, which is what we don't want, right? You got your backlight here on that shoulder. It's going in there and shooting back up like that. So I'd probably try and eliminate that. The other thing that we've got going here is this is some fairly unflattering light, which this light, this is a good reality check. This light on this person, on this guy right here, this is probably what this light looks like, only with an added backlight, right? You just crank up the level on the backlight, and this is how it would look in real life, right? It sort of looks like shit on him. I mean, it doesn't make him look particularly, not even attractive. Just, it doesn't make him look good. Even if you're trying to make him look bad, it doesn't look good. So, how do we fix it? Well, just like you fix any other from wide to tight, we are going to change the angle of the light. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Nobody doesn't expect this if you change things slightly. What was I watching? I was watching the new Vice trailer shot by Greg Fraser, which anamorphic. Looks amazing. Greg is phenomenally talented. But in the trailer, in the conversation between the two people, just look at the jumps that's happening. And nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about the lighting change. Nobody cares as they get closer and closer how much more shadow gets on, I think it's Dick Cheney. It's supposed to be Dick Cheney. Nobody cares about how much darker it gets. It just looks better. Okay. Andrew, I think we need to mix some light color temp here too to avoid this blueberry skin. Well, yeah. Stylistically, certainly a point where a little bit of contrast would go a long way. But if this is if you're going for that mono world, you don't have the trick of using color contrast. So that's when we have to be even extra diligent in the lighting contrast and the tones that go across the image. What I would say is let's just imagine still that we have our overhead, and the overhead would probably, if it's tilted this way, you'd probably want it to end, before his head. So this piano would have to be pulled out from the wall, and this is where the whole 20 by overhead ends, right here. And then you have the skirt, which goes in front of it to stop light from spilling on this side of his face. So let's remember that we got that up there. And let's say that stays. On the ground, let's stay with our sky panels because everyone has access to those. You put the sky panel, you put it in the little octo box that the sky panels now pretty much every single gaffer has purchased the DOP Choice Sky Panel fucking octo box, which is great. You put it on a rolling stand, you bring it just here, and all you're doing is just match this level. You don't even have to change anything, especially with the capabilities of the dimming, and it makes it so fucking fast now. You put up the octobox here, just above eye height. You get it slightly pointing down, so it looks like it's relatively coming from the same angle as before. But the box here, and you're just going to try and get wrap just around to that other cheek. It will not only do that, number one, you're going to get an eye light. Immediately, this thing will look better with an eye light. Immediately. It will look like this guy's got more life. He won't look so sickly. And we can eliminate these shadows, right? Those baggy shadows, which are always problematic with overheads. This would tell me if I was setting up this overhead and I saw these shadows, I would say it's not soft enough. We have to knock more out of it, or we have to bring it closer. It's not enough. So I would say that. Then octobox here, level this way, try and reach out of the cheek. It'll give us an eye light. It'll give us some shape. Then what you can do, once you get that shape and you get just a little bit more level, just a tiny bit more level and travel out of the lamp, and you eliminate those eye shadows, then we can play with this, because this is a good amount of level. It just feels like it spreads too far down. And I don't know, I mean, it looks like another lamp. I can't be certain, but it looks like either there's too much level in the overhead over there that's giving us this, or it's another lamp. If it's another lamp, I would just try and scoot it around more this way, behind him, so you get, or miss left, right? If I was standing at the camera, I'd say to whoever's on the lamp, I'd say, okay, that's good with that spot that you're in, but just miss left, just take it that way. And then that way, this shadow on his face starts to drop back this way. Okay? Because right now you're getting this V of light, which the part that we're looking at in the frame, because he's on this side of the frame, I mean, I don't know. Right away I'm drawn to this side of his face, and I'm looking into just a whole bunch of shit going on, right? There's multiple shadows mixing in with each other. There's this weird catch eye light that's coming off of the piano. And then, of course, to lose that piano bounce, I would just put black on top of the piano. Just lay some Duvetine on top of the piano to kill that spill. And that's it. We're away. Okay. Let's do questions before we go to the next one. This one is Spencer. Patrick, do you still get mileage out of the Lomos that you have on the podcast this week? It sounds like it's hard to sell people on those because they're so unique compared to Master Anamorphics. I still do. Yeah, I just shot a job last week with the Lomos. They're awesome. They are, they are a look. The Master Anamorphics you can sell, you don't even sell them because there's nothing to worry about. The only time you really have to sell stuff is when there are concerns that people should know about. So if I got the Master Anamorphics on a job, I wouldn't even mention it to the director if they weren't inclined about lenses and gear. Some people aren't. Some directors just don't care. And you were talking with the producer, I would just say, no, just get the Master Anamorphics, and then I would never talk about it again. If I thought the Lomos would do a good job, I would say, let's get the Lomos on. There are some things you have to know. The close focus is a bit of an issue, so we're going to have to, things may take a little bit longer. If we want to do complex shots, if you want to do traveling shots where we're coming from in tight to far away, that's not going to be possible. We'll have to think of different ways of doing things. And then if it's heavy VFX and they're worried about, the edges of frames and things being perfectly sharp or straight, this is probably not a good fit. If you want something a little bit more organic, though, this is how you get it, especially with diopters. The Lomos with diopters, a very nice look. Okay, yeah. Okay, Brian Bradley, true, I'm watching the first on Hulu, and between the wides and close-up, the DP cheats and has his close-ups lit at a higher contrast ratio. Yeah, it's just standard practice. Once you see it, you'd be like, how was I not noticing this before? This just seems ridiculous. Okay, let's do the next shot. Here we go. This is a little bit more my vibe, and we got more cheek, it feels like. This is lit from some lamp over here now. So you had the lamp on the ground, because now you're getting all the way across the face. This of all of the two sort of close-up-y shots, this one is quite nice. The other thing I was going to say here is, what's cool here, besides cutting his head off, is anytime you get this surface, it's like an easy win. And it almost feels like, oh, I'm going to do this shot again. But just the reflective nature, I would probably just level down the camera. Level down the camera, and again, I'm just stating what I would do. If I was looking through the viewfinder, I would say, okay, and we were on like a dolly or something, I'd say, okay, we got to come down because I want to get this in the shot, and I don't want to cut off his head, and I want him on this side of the frame. So I'm going to pan this way. I'll change colors. I'm going to pan. We're going to travel that way. I'm going to pan, let's see, this way. And we're going to level down, which means I'm going to tilt up. So I would basically change the entire composition of the shot. That's why different people shoot different things, right? Because it looks different. This one is pretty classic. You got good, oops, I'll switch away from green. You got good balance in the background. You got nice on him. Probably this thing just kills our mood a little bit, just the level of that and the angle of it. It's starting to feel fronty, which kills this. I'd like to see this just a little, just give me a little sliver, rather than filling in his whole back. Give me a little sliver, and I'd probably put a bottom on this one to kill all this stuff hitting him. I'd probably just want, give me just this, like a little tiny, just to feel it. It just gets a little bit wide and it hits his ear and creates this weird thing here. Just seems a bit big. So try and walk the lamp that way, away from camera, so it's coming more from that side, right? Back, less fronty. And the no shadow we talked about, which is cool. So the key to less shadows on the ground in the wide is getting that thing as soft as you possibly can, getting it as big as you can. If you only got access to a 12 by 12, you just got to get that thing just out of shot. And you got to make sure that it's full grid. And if you don't have a lot of space here, if you don't have a lot of space between the roof of the place that you're in and where you're lighting, a lot of the times people will pancake things. So you just, oh man, battery, really? So you just put 2 layers of diffusion in there. That's how you get it softer. So you put light grid on top, and then you have full grid underneath. That way it hits the light grid, spreads out, and you get much more softness out of it. Okay, let's go to, what do we got here? Questions. Hey, Patrick, do you have any advice on how to think about lighting multiple actors in one scene? The bar scene from Inglourious Bastard, lots of actors, lots of angles. Yeah, I think you work backwards. I mean, you work backwards all the time. You work backwards for, like, I remember the scene from Inglourious Basterds. I can't remember the exact layout, but I would work backwards from the close-ups, knowing, okay, these 3 people are talking. We're going to get an angle on each of them. Where is that light going to be coming from to make them look nice? And then once you figure out, okay, what's going to look nice for those shots, we're going to need something overhead, but we want it coming from a certain angle because even though there's 4 people, we're only on this side of the line, right? We're not going to be jumping sides of the line. So that makes the lighting easier, or thinking about the lighting easier. So I would say start with the close-up and what angle you want the light to come from for everybody. Then you figure out what source is going to do that and how can we get that source in there for just for the close-up bit. And then you work backwards from there and say, okay, it can be, that source doesn't have to be as pretty in the wide. We just talked about that. It can be a little bit harder in the wide shots. So how do we, number one, keep that source from killing everything else? Like, we need to create mood, depending on the time of day, whatever it is. I'd probably be thinking shape. So how do we keep that light that is going to be there, or is the motivation for the close-up, how do we keep that contained in the wide shot? Or if it needs to be contained. If not, if it's some daytime scene, we don't really have to worry about it as much. But then work backwards into the wide shot, and then how can we make it look? Because the wide shot, and this may be, I don't know if this is how other people think of it. I would think it's like, oh, we do the best we can, because there's just some times where you can make the area look as good as possible, but the light on individual people, it just falls where it falls, and that's the reality. We're not lighting cartoons here. You can't be so specific without seeing anything. Light just can't come from nowhere. So you have to have the ability to get it in there. So you figure out what's going to look good in the close-up. Can we physically do it in the wide shot? Can we get that light there to motivate it? If not, we're going to have to rethink the close-up. So you just trial and error. You go back and forth until you say, well, this light works for the close-up. That angle of the light works for the close-up. The blocking of the camera works for the light in the close-up. Now, how do we sell that in the wide? This is how we do it. Okay, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks close enough that we'll be able to sell it later. And then you just walk it in, and the rest is history, right? There you go. Inglourious Basterds done. It's not quite that easy, but you get the point. Okay, let's do the next one. What do we got here? We got World War II. Oops. Oh, this is another one from that same setup. And what I wanted to say about this one was, okay, now you definitely see that it's 2 lights, right? You got your flare light, and then you got this light up here, which is hitting his head. This one looks like it's going south on him. These type of shots, what I think separates the shots that are good from the shots that feel, I don't know what the word is, lower budget, not as strong, is even though it's all black in here, you need some information, because you get these giant chunks of total darkness, and then you get these hot bits here. All right, it's a look, but I think if you look at somebody like the Silhouette Maestro, Roger Deakins, the blacks are so black, but there's also just in the toe, there's just that little bit of carry of information that doesn't distract, but it's not complete giant swaths of darkness. And you can do that through atmosphere. You can put a little bit of atmosphere in here. You can put just a little bit of, like we talked about before, a little push of something just to make it interesting. And then here, if you want to keep that on them all dark, of course. But it's just, anytime you get light or dark, anytime you get these giant chunks of things, I think, to me, it feels less interesting. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is our World War II vibe, and these guys are in this bunker. Oh, I should have done a whole thing on this one, because this is nice. Well, the setup would be fun. You got this light that's coming in from outside this little bunker that they're in, and then you got this fronty light, which I can't remember if this is actually explained in the short where this light is coming from, because they're in this hole, this little foxhole thing. But this is what we see in the wide. Okay, we're not even going to talk about whether we like it or not. We're just going to move on to the next shot. Okay, this is the cut. This is our cut to these two people talking. So you got this shot, and then this shot. And then you got this shot. Now, this is good looking stuff here. That's nice. You got a little eye light in there, which we're going to talk about. It is crunchy. It's certainly dark. I mean, it's very, very contrasty, but that's a look. You know, it's like Bridge of Spies. That thing, talk about some crunch and some contrast and some color contrast and some pop. That was certainly in there. This is sort of in that world. I mean, it's fucking dark back there. Again, just that little bit of something. Not like, it doesn't even have to be as much as this back here, but just something back there. Let's talk about, because this might be on the extreme end of what you can sell on a change of lighting. Like this looks, it does look a lot different. It does look a lot different. Okay, let's talk about it. So, we got this little hot thing coming, sort of Bob Richardson style, super hot backlight. It's very, very hot. Feels like day coming into this little foxhole. You got the framing good. We're setting up this conversation. You got the majority of the light coming from out there, means that when we come in for our talking bits, we can sell this light because he's going to turn to talk to this guy. So he's going to turn his head. So then we can get light from that side onto his face, and we can darken up his shadow side as he turns to talk. This light that's coming in from the front now, even though it makes sense that they need to be illuminated so that you can see them. I don't know if there is a light in this scene or what this is, but I would still, even in this situation, I would still try and get more of an angle on them, just to eliminate this flatness across the entire face. You know, because we're losing interest because we don't have any contrast. It's just like a spotlight of light is on them. And you're saying, well, Patrick, if you do that, say you bring the light from over here and you get highlight side, and fall off over here. When you cut to this close-up, the light's going to be coming from this way, and it's going to look like shit because he's going to turn to talk, and he's going to be all filled in from this hot light outside and from this light that we just talked about pushing right into his face. Well, that's where I think you have license. I think that's a much easier, just magically get rid of the front light. That would be smack bang right behind the camera, and just put it over here more, almost where this light is now. You know, I think that's an easier sell than going from this level of light, from that to this. You know, that's a big jump. And again, depending on how much of the shot plays out in this thing, it would just look a little bit more interesting. You keep the levels back here where they are. Then when you go in for, did I get one where I didn't get one where they were turned. But this angle of the light, this shadow on his face, and this shadow here, and this beautiful little, you're just leaking in a little bit of light here. This is nice level. I mean, it's significantly less hot than this one. This one, there's a fuckload of level coming through. That is a shitload of backlight hotness. And then when you come in here, it's a lot less. It's a lot softer. It's not quite as hard. I like that. I like that look. I like this. This is the best of the shots. Number one, because even though it is dark, you have a little tiny eye light. What happens is when this guy turns his face, you lose that eye light, which is the drag. But watch what happens. If he turns his face this way, and you have this light where it is now, this light becomes his little edge on the side of his face. So you imagine he's now over here. This is him. There he is, like that. Yahoo! Okay, so that's him. Now you're getting light on this side of his face, and you can use this light, which you've softened already, as his key light for the camera. What you have to do in that situation, and you can see this, I have a vivid memory, Fade and Papa Michael, he was shooting, there was a movie that George Clooney directed where they're looking for World War II, like, shit. I forget what it's called. They're looking for World War II, like, artifacts. And there's a scene where I think it's George Clooney and Matt Damon are sitting at a bar. And a lot of times, this shot and this angle, these three shots will come up at bars because you'll have the bar here. We'll be looking this side of the bar. This is like your classic bar setup. Because it's difficult. Because in this shot, we need the light coming from the front. But then we have to sell good-looking light on them here. And there's a behind the scenes of him doing it. But then there's the actual shot. The trick is, or the hard part about this, is when they turn to talk to each other. If you got the light coming from, again, still over here. When this guy turns away from this light, he's going to be dead-eyed. There's going to be no light in his eyes. Unless you can get this light in his eyes, which is going to be hard. Same goes for our man here. Beautiful light in the eye here. When he turns to camera and he's talking to this guy, once again you lose that little eye light. So this is where you have to use that trick. This is where you have to put the little dado light right next to the camera, dim it all the way down, put the little cup on, have it just there. So when he turns, the eye light is there. You don't have to, it shouldn't be adding any level to it. But then not to add level to it and wash out your scene, you have to have enough light already in the scene to overpower knowing that that shift is going to come. So when he looks at the camera, this light should take over as your key. That should be enough exposure to read him. And you could sort of play with the camera angle and the angle of his body, you know, of the talent. They're sitting there and you're not getting enough out of this light when he turns. You just say, okay, let's just slide out where they're sitting. Let me get around a little bit more. That way, you know, if you come this way a foot, I don't think you're going to be able to tell that we traveled a foot from this shot. You know what I mean? But again, the trick with the eye light and making it seamless is that you have to have enough level. Because if you're shooting at really low levels, even a little tiny data light will completely wash out your look. Yeah, it's the Monuments Men. That's the idea. There's a scene, George Clooney, Matt Damon at a bar. And it's higher key than this. But still, the eye lights sell the darkness. And this angle, you know, this is beautiful light here. Beautiful backlight here. This is cool. You just have to make sure that you can replicate it when they turn to talk to each other. Because I didn't take a frame grab. I should have. But that's the hard bit. Planning for that. Okay. What else? Did I miss anything? Oh, I mean, and then this, of course. I would say, let's not be afraid to just mirror this lamp, even though it's coming from this direction, and which means it should be going straight at him. Let's not be afraid of just putting the lamp over there on the other side of him and giving him a mirror image of this, you know, flipping it this way. Nobody cares. This shot would look way better. And again, getting that eye light in there, it would just look way better. So don't be afraid. And then getting just a little bit of texture in here, because again, you don't get it in there at all, but you do get this thing all lit up. And this is good. This just that little hint of something in the background gives us context and gives us depth, which makes our close-up stand out more, right? If this was all black and you'd had this, it'd be like, oh, where's the context? Where's the depth? Doesn't feel three-dimensional. Just feels really flat. I mean, with that nose shadow, you're already feeling three-dimensional. And then with that little bit of color is even better. So all in all, I would say this particular shot is a good example of how we need the contrast. You need light to dark to sell depth. Depth sells higher quality. Depth sells richness. So you got highlight, then you got dark, then you got highlight, then you got dark, then you got nice highlight, then you got dark, you got highlight. This little channel here, this is what I would be looking for. This is what I would be like, okay, stop there. We got this little channel here on his face of key light. You'd be like, yeah, that's the perfect spot. Nobody touch the thing. That's as good as it gets. Then the little ear. Yeah. This little hair thing. And again, light to dark. So all that looks good. And that's the only frame grabs that I pulled. So if you guys have got questions about either the light meter thing or any of these shots or lighting just in general, or questions about your own life, now is the time to get them in, because if not, this shall be the end of the live stream. Let's see. Questions? Questions? Yes, it was Monuments Men. The Facebook thing, yeah, I have to approve you, which I get around to approving people about once every week. So go in there and feel free to share your thoughts. What else? I don't really have anything. I got nothing. I got to put up that computer in the background. Little computer over there. And then, oh, good, Josh. Was that your project? Josh, if that was your project, tell us at least what you were lighting with. Because I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get through all these videos. I'm going to have to do more of these to get through all the things that people send in. But I'll tell you what, you know, it is, and I'm not, no need to blow smoke up everybody's ass, but it is fun to see everyone getting better. It is really fun that to take on some points and to see the quality of the work coming through the Patreon stuff. I mean, and to see the ideas, like this idea, like I can see myself doing that, and I would be like, yeah, and then someone else is doing it. And I don't know if they got it from the podcast, but even the idea that maybe they got something out of it is fucking cool. So thank you, everybody, for sending in the projects. Okay, let's do... So Josh, you're welcome. Caesar, how do you deal with jet lag? You just keep moving. You don't be soft. You don't be soft, and you always sit down when possible. No, when I'm coming to LA, I have the perfect schedule. I know the exact flight that I get on to get to the airport. I know that if I leave I leave midnight here in Western Australia. I get on the plane. It's 11:55 the flight. I get to Sydney. It's 6 in the morning. I fly from there to LA. It's 6 in the morning in Los Angeles. I sleep the whole time there. Why is that blinking? I just have it just down super easy. Going to China, it's the same time zone, so I don't really have to deal with it. Can you talk about how to get a bigger eye light source in Talon's eyes? Sometimes I want something bigger than a pen light. Well, it depends on what type of shot you're going for. But if you're going for a close-up, the bigger you make the source, the bigger the eye light becomes. But you can't differentiate. I mean, normally, if you're lighting someone with a 4x frame, it's just there. The eye light is just there. Like you can see in mine, this is a fucking 8x8. And I don't know if you can see it. You probably see the computer screen in my eye too. But that is like, you know, if I mad dog the lens, that is, what is going on with this battery? It's just naturally there. So the bigger you make this thing, the bigger the eye light becomes, as long as you get this thing in super close. The problem is, as you get it closer, the light gets softer, it wraps around more. It may not be your look. There is a way around that. So, say you like this look, but you want more of an eye light. Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to increase this level, stop down, or ND down, and then you're going to have to get another light that will just be eye light. It won't be for actually getting level on me. Set it as low as possible without affecting your other light, and then get it closer than actually this light is, right? And you're going to have to get it on the same direction, or else you're going to get two eye lights, which you probably don't want. I got to change this battery. Man, these blocks. So a lot of the times, eye lights are just naturally there. You shouldn't really have to, I don't know. The only time you have to think of eye lights is when it's a very dark, moody scene and someone is making a turn like this one. If this guy's turning here, that's when you have to start to think about it. Because as you can see, his key light is already taking care of his eye light. Okay. Let's see. Can you talk about how to get... No, I did that. Bradley, can you cover my images? I added a link. I'm not sure what you mean. If you're talking about on the live stream, maybe next week. Okay. We got Patrick. Do you ever think that you'll do a podcast live stream based more around the entire pre-production process? Well, Alec, it's your lucky day. I have approximately 12 minutes. You ask me whatever you want about the pre-production process. What do you want to know? How to get jobs? How to interact with a director? How to interact with a producer? These live streams can be whatever you want them to be. I don't know the questions that you've got, but I'll answer anything. What angle are you looking about from a live stream? I mean, from a pre-production process. What would you like to know? Spencer, tips on day interiors with small fixtures like M18s or Airy Suns. Location is everything. Do not think that those lights will do anything. Maybe they'll fill in something, but if you have to use those lights to fill in something, you're doing it wrong. So with small fixtures, I wouldn't use them. I would just say, maybe I would use them for like little accents. Maybe. But I would say if we don't have, basically if you don't have, maybe like what would do it? Like a 6K? 6K. If you got a 6K or a 12K, 18K, M9, M4, those you can do some things. And that's when I would be like, okay, we can be a little bit more lenient with the schedule if we have those lamps. If we don't have access to any of those lamps, it's all schedule. So I wouldn't even try and be like, well, we can put that M18 outside. It'll do lots. I would just find another solution because it's going to be so frustrating. Neil. Oh, shit. What happened? Did you fall down? Neil? Tell me now. Okay. I have a shoot. This is Daryl. I have a shoot where we have a dark studio and two hosts talking direct to camera. Desire is shape on their face when they turn. Thoughts on overhead Chimera lantern compared to large frame? I mean, it's never going to be soft as an overhead frame. So normally, a lot of the times you want to create an ambient, like a base level of exposure that you're happy with, and then you shape with the lamps besides the overhead. If they're going to look at each other, you're going to want to cross key them from the back. So what looks like, I mean, are you doing it live? Is it multiple cameras? If it's multiple cameras and they're all trying to get the shot at the exact same time, you have to approach it a little bit differently. If it's single camera and you can bounce around, then you just make the backlight look a little bit hotter in the wide shot. Still push from the front as you normally would, but then as they turn, you just increase that level as you come around for their singles. You just increase that level as they turn, and you do the same trick with the eye light if it's going to be dark and moody. If you're going to play it, a lot of the times though in those host environments, you play it a little bit higher key. Alec, in terms of getting jobs when you were at a lower level, I'm at a pretty fucking low level now, Alec. I'm doing fucking shitty ass commercials all the time. In terms of getting jobs when you're at a lower level, were you mainly making friends with producers and production companies and getting more work that way? What was I doing? I got in with a production company. And when I say I got in with a director, that director had me shoot a job. That job, he then went into the production company to start to edit. Another director who was there prepping a project saw that ad and said, who did you get to shoot that? And he told them. And I wasn't that other person's go-to guy, that other director, but I was just in the back of his head. Then he had a project come up, that new director had a project come up, and lo and behold, the cinematographer that they were normally working with was unavailable. That's the thing with DPs. Everybody is always leaving gaps behind them. Everybody, because everybody wants to do different shit. Hold on, I gotta change the third battery. Okay, 8 minutes. Everyone is always leaving little holes behind them that you can just fill in. You just have to have your name in the mix. So I never thought about going out and networking. I'm not a social person. I hate crowds, party environments. I'm not a big fan of, unless there's heavy drinking involved. So I never thought, well, I need to meet more directors, like socially. I never once thought that. I just made good stuff. Well, I didn't even make good stuff. I mean, I still don't make good stuff. I made stuff as good as I could make it at the time. Then I manipulated it to make it look like it was much bigger, and it was better than it was. And then I tricked one person into giving me a job. And then I milked that job for all that it was worth. I was a nice person on set. I wasn't a piece of shit. I didn't take up lots of time. The director was happy with the look. I did what I did, and then that director, as I said, they start editing. The word gets out. You don't become available. That producer who was on that job is also producing this next job, and the director's from out of town. They've got questions about the local area, and your name gets on. It's not like you immediately go from, doing one job a year to doing 4 jobs a month. That's the part that takes time, because you just have to get the word out there. But the word spreads from you not being a piece of shit in the commercial world, delivering on time, making stuff as good as it can possibly be, being happy, not being a problem maker, just being the person that goes, yeah, okay. We don't have a generator today. Okay. We can make it work. The last thing, if you were a director, the last thing you want to hear is some DP bitching about they can't get the light that they wanted. Well, no shit, dude. No one can get anything they want. It's a fucking commercial. You're lucky. Just make it as good as you can. Everyone knows there's limitations. Of course, ask. Of course. But the chances of you getting anything, we're doing a car insurance ad. We're not doing a Nike ad. Everybody knows this is not the ad. This is not the thing that's going to, that we dreamed of doing when we were little kids. We have this skill. These people want that skill. Let's give it to them. And then we'll try and figure out something cool next time. Rather than being, walking around sulking. I've seen number one pet peeve is people who think that the film industry is hard. Have you ever worked in a job that actually requires you to do tons and tons of work? A first AC, a second AC, people in the lighting department, and people get so upset at this. People get so freaked out. You're not doing dick. You're not doing shit. The job is so easy. You don't have to put up with any clients. I mean, especially the people lower down the ladder. You're just doing work. And then you get these huge breaks of time where you're doing fuck all, sitting around waiting for the take to be okayed. And then you have to pick up the lights and you have to start again. The worst thing is looking around and seeing someone fucking huff and puff and look all tired and shit. It just brings everybody down. Don't be that person. It's not that bad. Go get a job that sucks. And then come back and do this one. And you'd be like, wait a sec. I don't have to lift bricks for 12 hours. I can sit on my fat ass and we can talk. And I can have coffee whenever I want. And I can have little snacks on this snack plate here. Go get a fucking piece of cheese or whatever it is. Just don't be a piece of shit. And that'll get you a lot of work. Okay, let's do the next question here. What do we got? 4 minutes. Single camera, direct to camera. Yeah, easy, Daryl. That's easy. Backlight them up. You're good to go. Maybe you have mentioned this before. I logged on, but super curious to hear your thoughts on the DXL2. Jeff, the thing is awesome. It will blow your mind. I am someone who has seen, I think, a lot of shit in my day in terms of images. I have never turned the camera on and been like, it looks better than real life. It makes boring shit look good. which is like, it's like the new anamorphic. It makes boring stuff look good. It's fucking incredible. How the separation, there's something going on. I don't know if it's the Panavision thing or the full frame thing. I haven't shot on the Monstro. But the color, 1600 ISO. If you take a look at the light iron LUT on just normal footage, it is, the light iron LUT lifts things about 2 stops. So everything looks, like if you put it on 800 ISO Alexa Log C footage, the footage after the LUT will look way blown out, which tells you that light iron and Panavision are really pumping up the look on the sensor, and they suggest that you shoot at 1600 ISO because there is such little noise. It gives you so much range in the highlights. Like you can't blow out that camera if you tried. You would have to be, I mean, not even, it would look so ridiculous in the monitor if you had a highlight clipped. Just the range of color. I've never been, I mean, when we went and tested the camera, I was like, yeah, we were at Panavision, and it was like, yeah, I mean, it's full frame. They mandated we had to shoot red because they were pulling stills. It's like, okay. We got the thing outside, and I was like, holy shit. Just point it anywhere. Point it over there at that thing. It was like, oh my God. Like, why? We're wasting this on this job. We could be doing so much cool shit with this. And, you know, it's like anytime, you know, like anytime you get any new gear, you just want to go out there and do fucking 10,000 things with it because it's real fun. So yeah, I would say, I mean, if I, Eddie, Alexa versus DXL, I would shoot everything right now I could on the DXL2 with Artis. The other lenses, okay. The Artis T1.9 across the range on a 40mm on a full frame, wide open. Ugh. It's good. It's real good. I would shoot everything on that camera. Now, power blows. The workflow blows. The clunkiness, because the red menu is also running on top of the Panavision menu. And if one person goes into the touchscreen and the other person is using the Panavision side, it fucking blows. It sucks. And the whole camera will just shit itself. So not great there. Yeah. Andrew, I told you, the only time I talked to anybody about the Sony Venice was Khalid, and he said it was his favorite camera. So, 1 minute, I'm just going to stop recording, and then I'll come back. All right, we managed to fill a whole mag today. I'm recording these to put little snippets back on YouTube. We've managed to fill a whole meg, 512 gigabytes in one live stream. So yes, I would be excited. Anytime anybody wants to use the DXL2, let me know, and I'll put in a word with Michael over at Panavision, because he's excited to get this thing out, and you don't hear anybody talking about it. I don't know, it's been out for a while. Especially the Artis, I know they're on a bunch of features, which is why when we were doing the prep, I was trying to, Michael was like, if you can, talk to the people at Panavision and ask if you can get these lenses, because they will go on a feature as soon as they're done. And they had literally, Dan Sasaki was in the back at Panavision. He's cooking up the finishing touches on these lenses. And when they brought them out, they had never been on a camera before. We just happened to sneak in at just the right time to get these lenses before they were out. So I'm sure in whatever it is, 12 months time, you're going to see lots of stuff having been shot on the Artis. I know that, what's his name? Darren Liu. He shot a Netflix. Is it Netflix? Or maybe an Amazon series on the DXLs. So that'll be one thing that's out on the camera. But so far, I mean, really, really nice. Very good quality. Okay. If there's nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you. What do I got this week? I got, commercial. Lomos. Speak of the devil. Lomos XT. Still trying to sell my Pancros. If anybody wants cooked Pancros, somebody pull the trigger. What else? That's it. That means Tech Scout Monday. Shoot. Thursday, Friday. And which means next week, the live stream, we're going to have to do a different day. So, okay. That's going to do it. Thanks, people, for joining us. And we will see you in the next live stream. Bye-bye.